Hi friends, so happy you're here with me. My name is Teacher Bando, and we are talking about something really important today, voting. You've probably heard grown-ups are talking about voting all the time these days, right? Yeah, because voting is really important, and it's that time of year when grown-ups start voting in something called an election. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk all about it in this book, a kid's book about voting. This is a great book, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Next Up made this. Hello! We are a group of young people who care about making positive changes in the world. One of the ways we do that is by helping other young people understand everything there is to know about voting. But we've already gotten ahead of ourselves, so you probably want to know what voting is. Well, voting is how you show your support for a person or an idea, and you do this with something called a vote. A vote, simply put, is a choice for something or someone. Like, should we have pizza for dinner? Yes or no? I think yes. So what do you vote for? Well, things like ideas and laws and even presidents. Laws are rules. It's another fancy word for a rule. Well, how do you vote? This depends on where you live. Sometimes you fill in little bubbles on a piece of paper and then you mail it in, and other times you vote in person or on a computer. Who gets to vote? Well, that's a little more complicated. When our country, the United States of America, was founded, it was really messy. Okay, it was a little more than messy. Let me explain. Before the USA existed, many European countries, those are places on the other side of the world, by the way, many European countries used America for land, wealth, and power. This is called colonialism. But there were people who already lived in America, who today we call indigenous. Those indigenous people were forced out of their lands, and a majority of them were even killed. Europeans brought people from Africa and forced them into slavery. And slavery is when someone is forced to work but isn't paid and no longer has their freedom. We told you it was going to be more than messy. After a while, the people from Europe wanted even more power. So they created their own country called the United States of America. They made their own rules, and they even decided who got to vote on them. To do this, in 1789, they wrote a document called the Constitution. The Constitution laid out laws of the land that everyone had to follow. It also said who could vote. Can you guess who got the right to vote from the Constitution? White men who also owned land and paid taxes. But this was only 6% of the people at the time. Right? If that's 100% of the people, only that many people got to vote. Does that look fair? That does not look fair to me. If you were a grown-up in 1789, would you have been allowed to vote if you were not white? What about your best friend or your teacher or your parents? Does that seem right or fair to you? Many people in our country haven't been able to vote because of their race, age, gender, or religion, wealth or language, citizenship or physical ability. Look at that. These are a lot of different reasons that people haven't been able or allowed to vote because of all of these different reasons. But who can vote? But who can vote has changed over time. Because in 1870, which was a long time ago, it wasn't until almost 100 years after the Constitution that black men got the right to vote. And then in 1920, 50 years after that, white women were finally allowed to vote. And then in 1924, soon after, a new law was made that gave indigenous people citizenship and the right to vote. But many states kept them from voting until 1957. Even after all of this, it didn't mean that every black man, white woman, and an indigenous person got the right to vote. A lot of them were still left out. Eventually, more groups of people got to vote, like in 1952, Asian people gained citizenship and the right to vote. And in 1965, the Voting Rights Act said that there couldn't be any barriers to anyone voting. Well, in theory. And in 1970, the age for voting changed from 21 to 18. In 1975, Latinx people gained the right to vote, and up till then, you couldn't vote if you couldn't read or write in English. And in 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act ensured that individuals with disabilities could vote. Does it seem right to you that it took so long for so many people to get a chance to vote? Well, we think it's outrageous, unfair, and simply not right. But we're hopeful because it shows that things can change. And still, not everyone can vote, but now more people than ever can. And in the future, we hope that even more people will get the right to vote. Because believe it or not, some still don't. How? Through new laws, our government, and people working together to make change happen. Sounds like teamwork to me, right? We've talked about teamwork here before. And how do new laws and governments get formed? By voting. Voting is so important. There are a lot of different things that you get to vote for when you're a grown-up, like who is president of the United States, or who the mayor of your city is, and so many more things like parks and schools and judges and senators and playgrounds and rule changes and governors and sheriffs and money and on and on and on. You can hear, we can vote on a lot of things. Voting happens all the time, and each time it's for something different. Almost every year, we vote for local things, and every 4 years, we vote for a new president. And every 6 years, we vote for our United States senators. Voting is one of the most important things that you can do. It's not just using your voice, but it's something even more special. Your power. Yes, you are powerful. When we vote, individual voices come together and make a bigger sound. Look at that. That's that power when everybody joins in together, right? Voting allows us to advocate for people and issues we believe in. Advocate's a big word. That means stand up for something that you think is right and something that you want to fight for. So voting allows us to advocate for people and issues we believe in. It doesn't just happen with one vote, but many more votes, which means your vote, eventually when you can, is so important. Because sometimes something wins by just one vote, or 7 votes, or 3,000 votes. So your vote really does matter. But sadly, not everybody that can vote does vote. For example, during big elections, like voting for a president, only about half of the people vote. I know, can you believe that? I can't either. So, what will you do when you grow up? Will you use your voice? Will you stand up for what you believe in? Will you vote? And it tells us to check all that applies. So I am super hopeful and just filled with the idea that you're going to do this. You're going to do all of these great things. You're going to use your voice. You're going to stand up for what you believe in, and you're going to vote. So friends, this has been an amazing book that I am so glad we got to read together. And that is a kid's book about voting. So if you have any more questions, definitely let me know. I would be happy to answer any questions you have about voting. But I feel like this book did a really, really good job letting us know all about voting. Well, I've got my ballot here. I'm super excited because our elections are coming up, and I want to vote and advocate for the things that I believe are fair and just. I want to vote for the people that want to make this world more fair. I want to vote for laws that make this world more fair for everybody, not just for me, right? We learned all about how we're going to advocate for everybody. So friends, thank you so much for reading. And remember, vote. Vote, vote, vote. Tell your grown-ups to vote. And when you grow up, you're going to be the ones making all of the rules for our country. So here's to us creating a more just and equitable world for everybody, where it's more fair for all of us. My name is Teacher Bando. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, friends.